welcome to another edition of the Plus One interview. As you all know, After the Whistle is on hiatus, but we're still doing some interviews with some guests, and we have a guest who's back, Mr. Brian Waters. We talking WrestleMania 36, host of the Wrestling Realm. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, man. I want to say I'm on the side of a WrestleMania hangover. I think yesterday I breathed because I went live with Break It Down with Brian H. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after SmackDown, and then of course both days of WrestleMania. And so Monday night I enjoyed the show, and I was just like, whoa, like I was mentally exhausted, but I definitely enjoyed it, no doubt about it.
This year's WrestleMania was a little different, no audience, but from what I saw, the reaction was it turned out to be a pretty great show, even without fans in attendance.
Yeah, it was definitely a great show. The thing about WrestleMania is it's the moments, right? Sure, it's called WrestleMania, but for the most part, it's never about the matches. It's always about the shabazz and the hoopla. When you look at the Super Bowl, you look at the World Series, you may not, or in the NBA Finals, you'll get some epic games, but at the end of the day, nobody's out there on those shows trying to have the best game. They're just trying to win. They're not trying to have, you ask them, would they want to have a tight game or a blowout, they're going to tell you blowout. WrestleMania, yeah, they want to have great matches, but they also want to be able to create a memorable moment in that match. And there was a lot of moments created. Unfortunately, it was hurt because some of the things where we would have got spectacular reactions, we didn't get because of the there was no audience. And I can go into that when you cue me up. I want to take over the show.
Listen, I mean, let's get right into that. What were some of those moments?
All right, so definitely some of the moments are number one to me, Otis and Mandy Rose. This is a story that had been building. You have Otis, who's a guy who's a heavy-set, lovable guy, and then you have Mandy Rose, who was a fitness model before she got in the wrestling business. No doubt about it, a supermodel, somebody, pretty much every man's dream. So you look at her and you look at him, you're like, why would she even be with him? She agreed to go on a date with him, for those who do not know, on Valentine's Day. To make a long story short, her best friend and a guy who liked her, Dolph Ziggler, decided to set up a plot, basically taking Mandy's phone, saying that she was going to be late. So then when Otis was late, Mandy was upset. She was like, Otis, you get one chance. They did this thing where they found out that was a lie. Because of that, that's when we saw the fact that Mandy was like, you know what? I shouldn't have been so hard on this guy. So when Otis beat the guy who was trying to date her afterwards, they had this kiss. And when they kissed, if there had been an audience, the crowd would have went crazy. They would have went buck wild just because you're getting to see. And this is the thing people got to remember about wrestling. It's a lot of storytelling and it's a lot of opportunities to show that you can overcome adversity and overcome bullying. When you have this big guy who's being bullied, he can relate to a lot of the kids the bigger kids who may get bullied in school. For him to be able to get the girl, that was an epic moment. You also had it was a spot where the former group Team Bad, Naomi, Tamina, and Sasha Banks all worked together. But when they all had that look and they stood in the ring, that would have been a moment that the crowd would have sucked up. So many spots during Edge and Randy Orton's match, which people say went long. It was a personal beef, but Edge coming out there to the ring for the first time for a one-on-one match in 9 years, that would have been incredible. In fact, his last match was at WrestleMania 27 in 2011. So, I mean, there was just all these moments that would have been perfect if they had crowd. And, of course, last but not least, Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship, beating Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and to get back on Edge, this was his first one since the neck issues, correct?
Yes. He was forced into retirement in 2011, and he has a docuseries. And they even said, like, when you look at his match in 2011, WrestleMania 27 against Alberto Del Rio, he was defending his world championship. he said he was kind of taking it in because he just had a feeling it was going to be it. He went out the next night on Raw. He retired. He's somebody who's a personal favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I literally remember his first match back in June of 1998 on a Monday Night Raw. To see his whole career, to see him have to retire, it was emotional for me. He would get inducted in the Hall of Fame the next year, WrestleMania 28. But because there's been so many advances in medicine and treatment, he was able to get back in the ring. Same with a guy like Daniel Bryan back almost 4 years ago. He was somebody else who, 2 years ago, who everybody thought was done. So with Edge, it was great. And just to see him be able to get that moment back. But you definitely wish it was there for the fans. He did appear in the Royal Rumble when that was his like official return, and the crowd did go crazy. I'll be honest with you. For me, that was the same night Kobe Bryant died, so I couldn't really take it in the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
But being able to watch that match, I was like, all right, I was hooked.
Yeah. Another one that I think probably of the fan that could have used the fan was the 24/7 title.
Oh yeah, definitely.
To me, that with what happened in that match and just having Gronkowski first time participating in a WrestleMania, that would have been something for the crowd.
Yeah, and before, because the internet and the wrestler fans, they'll say, well, he was at WrestleMania 33 when Mojo Rawley was in the Battle Royal. Yeah, but this was his first time being officially part of WWE. And think about this. WrestleMania was scheduled to be in Tampa. An epic surprise would have been somehow, some way, getting Tom Brady some TV time for WrestleMania. But Rob would have definitely got the crowd hyped up, and him leaving as the champion, that would have definitely sent the crowd crazy.
Can you give me a little backstory on the 24/7 title? I'm not too familiar with it.
All right, so it's kind of a play of years ago during the Attitude Era. There was a hardcore championship, and the hardcore championship was every time the title was defended, you could use weapons and all that. It was always in a hardcore match. Well, around 2000, a wrestler by the name of the late great Crash Holly said, I'm going to be the toughest hardcore champion, and I'm going to defend this title 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is pre-social media, but what would happen is during the show, you would see people running up to him trying to beat him. And they would, beat him for the title. All right, I'm the hardcore champion. Then they even did a spot like that lasted for about a couple years. So what they did was since they don't do hardcore matches no more because of the they're PG now as opposed to Attitude Era was the 1835 was their target demographic. So they just said we'll have a 24/7 title, and this title could be defended 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So what's always cool is you'll see the wrestlers defending their title during like on social media. So you may log on to the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and see a Fox News host. Like let's just say Gronk, if we wasn't practicing social distancing, Gronk would have went to Fox to promote he's the champion. All of a sudden, Rob Parker rolls him up for a 1, 2, 3. That's the type of stuff that would happen.
Gotcha.
So that's what's so cool about it. A lot of people didn't like it at first, but R-Truth really made this title because he's a naturally goofy person. And he would say, I'm the 48-17 7-11 champion. He would say all kinds of funny stuff, and then he would start he would go crazy when he didn't have the title. So that's a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah. What were some other matches that stood out for you? I know the Goldberg Braun Strowman fight. That was a fight that people were looking forward to see.
Yeah. People always want to see Goldberg in the ring. Because Goldberg is one of those people that a lot of fans who are around professionals now have grew up watching. So if they see Goldberg's on a card, I'm gonna tune in. He's that type of guy. But the match, I I enjoyed it. It was supposed to be quick. Braun Strowman went out there. He's a big guy. He's a powerhouse guy. A lot of somebody that people thought should have been a world champion years ago. For whatever reason, they a lot of the he say she say was that he wasn't mature enough for the title, but because originally that match was scheduled for Roman Reigns, but we know Roman Reigns battled leukemia twice, felt it was best for him not to participate in this year's WrestleMania. So they put Braun Strowman in the match as to say, all right, so the way I look at it was, all right, Braun, here's your chance. Let's see what you can do. So it's kind of a low risk, high reward for him. And so it's glad to see. I'm glad to see him finally get the championship, and I want to see how far he goes. But as far as the match, I mean, Goldberg is not going to go give you a 15, 20-minute match. You would get bored. So it was really quick, and it was cool.
And then we got who else? What else? Kevin Owens. And who do you fight? Seth Rollins?
Yeah, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins was very personal. And if you go behind the curtain, these are really good friends. They both came up in the independents together. Kevin Owens said that he was at WrestleMania 31 the night Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank. He became the first person to cash in the championship at a WrestleMania, to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, which basically gives you an opportunity to cash in that briefcase any given time. He did that. That allowed him to become champion that night. And Owens was there he was a part of WWE, but he wasn't on the main roster. He was still in NXT. And the story behind this was, you've never had a WrestleMania moment. Where Seth Rollins is like, I think 4-5-1 at WrestleMania. Well, now 2, but he's had WrestleMania moments. Last year, he beat Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. So the year before that, he won the Intercontinental Championship. So you saw Rollins go out there. He's been used to this big stage. Kevin Owens has had matches, but they haven't been much memorable. Mm-hmm. This one, I think, was memorable. Him jumping off the WrestleMania sign. That's a moment that does not happen if they are in the arena.
And then the next women's championship, we got Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair defeats her. Charlotte Flair is probably considered one of the greatest female wrestlers, and she's just continuing on the Flair legacy with big performances on big stage.
Yeah, that's hard to do too. When you look back, as you being a sports professional, you got Michael Jordan here. When it comes to basketball, his son's here. You have Kobe, the late Kobe Bryant. His dad was here, where Kobe was here. You could make an argument like some of the best father-son duos, maybe Barry and Bobby Bonds, even though Barry was still, up there. So. And even in wrestling, a lot of times that goes the same way. I'll say Dusty Rhodes kids are making a different path, so that helps. But, one person with Ric Flair, he had his son David Flair, and David just couldn't even scratch the surface. They gave him time after time. It just didn't work. You wouldn't have been interested in anything he did. Mm-hmm. However, when Charlotte Flair joined the company, she kind of looked a little bland, but once she was really got her foot, and he was like, wait a minute. Okay, she's got something. She didn't even want to wrestle. Her late brother, Reed Flair, had kind of pushed her into wrestling. Unfortunately, he passed away right before she got signed. And because apparently they wanted to do it together because they say Reed was really good, especially as an amateur wrestler. But unfortunately, he passed away too soon. So she says she does this for him. On the wrestling realm, right after the show, I deem Charlotte Flair as Miss WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels is known as Mr. WrestleMania because he's had so many epic matches. Mm-hmm. Same with Charlotte Flair. Her WrestleMania debut as a wrestler, because she was in Triple H's WrestleMania entrance when he wrestled Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. I don't know if you know that, but as a wrestler in at WrestleMania 32. She won the reemergence of the Women's Championship, when she defeated Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. WrestleMania 34, she ended the streak of Asuka, which I deem the match of the night. I even put that match in the upper echelons of WrestleMania matches. You know, people talk Shawn and Taker. People talk Savage and Steamboat. I say you have to throw that match in there because it was just a beautiful match. I probably watched it over 10 times. This match with Rhea Ripley was the same way. For those ladies not to have a crowd, they went out there and performed. The story of this match going to Charlotte was letting Rhea know, hey, I'm a wrestler. I mean, I do this. WrestleMania, it's the big stage. You got to come in front of 80,000 plus fans to see what you could do. Because we didn't have that, to me, I said it changed the story of the match. But it was the first match on the second night, that's Sunday. And, I mean, they went out there and they tore the house down. And she won. A lot of people didn't think, and a lot of people didn't like the fact that she won. But what they got to understand is Charlotte Flair winning. If you want to talk about the business of professional wrestling and break kayfabe, her winning adds credibility to the NXT Women's Championship, which it already had, but it had it amongst wrestler fans. With NXT being on USA now advertisers, they know the name Charlotte Flair. Rick said he can't wait until the day comes when they're saying that Charlotte Flair is that he's Charlotte's dad, not that she's Rick's daughter. She's going out there making a name for herself. And quite frankly, I said that she's going to be the best in the world when it's all said and done. But there's a young lady by the name of Bianca Belair who just got promoted to Monday Night Raw that a lot of people have to watch out for as well.
All right. And lastly, before we get you up out of here, let's just talk overall, your overall reaction going forward, you know, with the next pay-per-view, just going forward with everything.
Well, it's always interesting around this time because it's the reset period. We saw Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship 11 years ago. Vince McMahon introduced him. I think it was 11 years ago, but Vince McMahon introduced him to the world and said he's going to be a future WWE champion, future World Heavyweight champion. Unfortunately for McIntyre, he got into some trouble, but then he said he wasn't ready for a lot of stuff that was given to him. He would leave the company after, you know, he did some good things. Then they put him in some comedic gimmicks. And then that would lead to him leaving WWE. He kind of went back on the independence, refound himself, came back with a different attitude. WWE re-signed him. He won the NXT championship, went to the main roster, and he beat Brock Lesnar. And everybody doesn't beat Brock. They said, like, if Brock respects you, then fine. But if he don't, look out. Yeah. But he beat Brock. So that's what I'm looking forward to, seeing where they go from here. I'm also I want to see how this Braun Strowman title reign is going to take place, see how this is going to work. Two things that I encourage people to check out. WWE, because of this situation, they had two cinematic matches. I don't know if you got a chance to see it with the Boneyard match to Undertaker and AJ Styles. That match was incredible. Mm-hmm. It was like a movie, and it was like one of the more Western movies where you had AJ Styles, who had been taunting Undertaker, saying real things, saying, you know, how your wife feel about you, call him old and washed up. A lot of stuff the internet was saying, and they went out there, they beat the mess out of each other. Then you had John Cena and Bray Wyatt in a funhouse match, and this was like so well produced where you literally see them doing so many comedic skits, and you saw how they went through all of John Cena's career in this matchup in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. So it's gonna be interesting, man.
They're definitely good times, but hey, Vince McMahon did he did one hell of a job. You can't say it, despite everything that's going on. He put on a show for a lot of fans.
It will go down as on WrestleMania 36, Vince McMahon beat the coronavirus. When everybody else had stopped what they were doing, Vince McMahon always had the mentality, the show must go on. And a lot of people didn't like that, but on Saturday, Sunday, really, what else was people watching except reruns of sports? So WWE said they felt they had an obligation to entertain the fans. So it's going to be interesting to see how things move on from here. But WWE does have a wealth of library. So if they got to do reruns or packages or stuff, they could do that.
I mean, you see Dana White bought an island for USC on April 18th.
I heard about that, and you know what? Dana White loves Vince McMahon. That's one of his mentors. You don't think Vince would say, hey, Dana, let me use that island, you know?
All right, Brian, tell them where they can find you. Plug your social media, YouTube channel. and all that.
Appreciate it, man. Go to YouTube, subscribe to the Wrestling Realm. The Real Dwayne Allen and I, my co-host, we've been getting some things. We got some cool things coming up. As we're taping this later on today, we're dropping a show called Life After WWE. We talk about some of the wrestlers who have left WWE and done better for themselves, and some of them even have came back. I also have quite a few interviews with a couple of wrestlers on there, but you can subscribe to, just search the Wrestling Realm. You can subscribe to that. We also make sure you follow me at Brian H. Waters, follow the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm. You can see it in my background if you're watching on the video how it's spelled. Shout out to my mother, that was her idea. So yeah, make sure you do that. Man, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk wrestling, man. I don't know if we're gonna be all together in July for NABJ, but definitely
Yeah, I don't know. I've already been saying, let's everybody just get ready for Houston.
Let's get ready for Houston. Yeah, let's get ready for some Zoom.
All right, man. You have a great one, Brian.
You too, man.
All right, take it easy.
All right.